Beach FM, locals talking to locals.
Beach FM, my very great pleasure now to welcome Barbara Edmonds to the program. Barbara, congratulations, the brand new MP for Mana.
Thank you so much, John, and thank you to our listeners, and thank you to all our voters. It's been a magnificent night, and we're just enjoying this moment.
It's an extraordinary night, just amazing. I'm looking at the map, I see Rangatiki. I know Rangatiki. I used to work with a man called Dennis Marshall at one stage. Dennis was Member of Parliament in that area, and I know the electorate, and the idea of it going red is just Rangitata, Barbara. Goodness me, the most conservative electorate in the country going with Labour.
Yep,
an extraordinary candidate, Joe. But Barbara, what do you put this down to?
I bring it down to Jacinda and her leadership. I really think New Zealand respected her leadership in the safe hands during this COVID period. And I really believe that in the end they just had faith in the team that was supporting her, because you're seeing it right throughout the country. Even Otaki, I am so happy about Otaki. So that's what I really think it comes down to, is leadership and just being able to put their trust in that.
And a lot of people are saying COVID, but I've got a feeling that feeling, and certainly the Jacinda factor is the overriding factor, there's no doubt about that. But that began with the response to White Island, and particularly the massacres in Christchurch, the extraordinary, exemplary leadership that this country was privileged to. I think that in a way built up to COVID, and that sealed the deal.
Yeah, and like Jacinda said earlier this week, you see how good your government is during a crisis. And I think a lot of New Zealanders, COVID solidified what our sort of international standing is when you compare it. And, that Kiwi number 8 wire get stuck in pitching as a community, that really shone through during COVID. And that's why we're able to, today I'm with our Kapiti team here in Raumati, and we're having a barbecue.
Isn't that wonderful? How wonderful. The Kiwi way, isn't it?
That's so the Kiwi way, yeah.
Response, which incidentally the Lancet have come out and said is the best response in the world. So that's something that I think we can all take some pride in, not just Jacinda, but we're all involved in this. It's pretty much the team of 5 million, as we heard about. But Barbara, I wonder if we can move on to what happens from here on in, because you have got absolutely no excuse. You know exactly what you're letting yourself in for. You're a senior advisor to a government minister. You've been involved in a lot of very important work at government level. So why have you, a very sensible mother of 8 and involved so much in the community, why have you stepped up to become an MP and part of the crazy political process?
So I believe that Mana needed the best voice to help during this time. During the next 3 years is going to be a tough time. And I think Mana needed a community voice, somebody who's actually lived in our community, who has, pitched in at the barbecues, at the sausage sizzles, helped on the school boards, helped, at the sports clubs, knows some of the residents, just down the road. So for me, it was just, the timing was right. And I know how big the challenge is going forward, particularly having a tax background, a tax policy background. So I knew that the economic response to this had to be important. So that's why I thought, well, I've got the skill set, I know the place, I can hit the ground running, and just be able to support our communities here. Because for me, this is the place that we decided to bring up our children, and I really want that the opportunities my children have to be available to other families within our community. So, yeah, for me it was just the right time, and I believed I had the strongest voice for us.
Barbara, you've already said it's going to be a really, really tough term, this one, as the world is still convulsing with COVID and the economic consequences. In many regards, this is going to be a very difficult first term as a new MP, and there'll be a lot of people in that room. So what would you like to achieve over the next 3 years?
The number one thing when we knock on doors here in Mana over this campaign over the last 5 months, it has come through, and through our phone banking, other than the COVID response, the gratitude for that, the second most important thing is around housing. Not just for those for social housing, but also for for young people that just want to buy their first home. And a lot of the parents that I speak to, that's their concern, is for their children. So for me, it's being able to just help out with that progressive home ownership policy program that Labor started in the last 2.5 years, being able to make sure I keep the finger on the pulse for the social housing, particularly the Porirua Regeneration Project in the east. That's quite big. But being able to support, a lot of the Kapiti coasters up here, a lot of the grandparents and the parents who just want their children to be able to enter the market. So for me, that's my number one priority, is around housing, because that's the biggest cost of living for our people, and that's a really big concern.
And of course, if people are well housed, if they're warm and dry and healthy, you're saving money in other areas as well. So I think housing is the most fundamental of rights. Barbara, you've got an interesting electorate in that you've already mentioned the very significant investment that's going into Porirua in terms of housing. It's often regarded that where you are right now in the Raumati and places slightly further north, it's better off relatively than some of the areas further south. Therefore, the areas further south tend to get the investment. Do you think there is a case to be made for more investment in the northern part of your electorate as well?
Yeah, I mean, that sort of that perspective that it is better off, I'm not too sure if that's the truth, because actually when I'm here doing visits, there's a lot of mental health issues for our youth in particular. That keeps coming out. Also meth. That keep coming out with the number of the social services that I've visited up here. So the investment, for example, that the government that Labor talked about around the Te Pai Oranga, which is the rollout of a meth pilot that's from Portland, it's gone out to the Hawke's Bay. That's something that would definitely benefit mana, because meth, unfortunately, is just that scourge, and it's just changing some of the demographics within our community. So that's something, an investment that I would like to see here. I'd also like to see here, because we've got the Kapiti just out in Parapara-Umu, the new, not the expressway, the new station that they're doing, welcoming the tourism centre.
Yes,
I know
the
our
gateway.
tourist operator. The gateway, our tourist operators up here are suffering. So being able to assist them to be able to get that sort of marketing that they need, because it's a gorgeous place up here. It's a bit of a hidden secret, but actually we need to stop it being hidden and actually get that more out there, so that, as people here in New Zealand are coming for other places for holiday, I'd really like to support our tourist operators here. So that investment is important, particularly with the gateway, and just being able to have a look at how that financial structure that works through with Wellington, New Zealand, which is who is the registered tourism operator here, how that filters through to Kapiti. So that's something I'm keeping my eye on as well.
I've just worked out that you've got a majority at the moment of 13,243. I think that might withstand any late surge in this special, so I'm pretty sure that you are the next Labour Party Member of Parliament for Mana. But Barbara, you are filling quite big shoes, aren't you, with Kris Faáfoii, who has been the electorate representative for quite some years, and actually in some quite difficult times. And these days he is an important member of the government. He turned out to be Minister of Everything at one stage, I think. Seemed to be Fix-It Man. So you've got big shoes to fill, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And the great thing is that Kris is going to help me with this. I mean, the great thing is Mana has not just me advocating for Mana, it also still has Kris. Looking at the results for the Greens, it'll have Jan Logie as well. Looking at Teresa with Otaki, that's huge, because we're in neighbouring electorates and you work so closely together, whether it's with the closest MP. So Mana will have a number of advocates within government, and so it's my hope is, big shoes to fill, but I know I will be supported, and that's one of those things you want to be able to leave a legacy behind for the next MP. Looking ahead. So it's making sure that savour it, to take in all that information and all that guidance that Kris is going to give me.
One of the things I admired about Kris was he regularly toured the electorate. He had hundreds of meetings with various people and organisations. He was such an active member of Parliament until he got swamped by all this government stuff and being Minister of Everything. Would you like to be the kind of MP who does keep meeting people and meeting organisations and keeping your finger on the pulse?
Oh, absolutely. You have to be connected to your community in order to take that voice to Parliament. And that comes through street corner meetings. That comes from coming to school prize givings, to AGMs, all the different things that happen within our community. Because if you don't, then you actually lose sight of why you've been elected as the MP, and then you do a disservice to the electorate. So I'm really looking forward to being able to spend a lot more time here on the Kapiti Coast because, obviously living in Titaki Bay, Porirua, that's where most of my community service has been, around the east and west of the basin. But now I get to be able to connect so much more up here, and I've some of the community groups up here in Kapiti are just phenomenal, and some of the Paikokariki community groups. So I'm really looking forward to just getting in and being a good constituent MP.
Lovely. Well, as part of that, we'd like to invite you to have a regular spot here on Beach FM. Are you up for that?
That's awesome. Yeah,
excellent. We shall talk again in that case. Barbara Edmonds, I'll let you to get back to that barbecue and thanking your supporters, and I thank you very much for your time here on Beach FM. Barbara Edmonds, who is the Mana MP, thank you so much.
106.3 Beach FM.